When I first got introduced to like typology and all that, it was just like from a friend who wouldn't stop talking about it. And I remember at the time we were trying to like do a band or something like that. He really got like another friend of ours into it. They were apparently like the golden pair or something, because he was like INFP. And I think yeah, the golden pair is the ENFJ, right? So the other dude is ENFJ. And man, like he wouldn't stop talking about it. Then he got him to talk about it. And when I got into it later than them, like kind of when they stopped, like when we all stopped talking for a bit because there wasn't my main group of friends. They were just like some friends that I was trying to do music stuff with. And me always having a curiosity about like, a little bit of, why people do the things they do and why they, behave the way that they do, or just the curiosity of just the mind and the psyche, and then why do people go through all these different like, mental disorders and all that stuff. Being introduced to this pseudoscience or social engineering type of thing was interesting because the way I viewed it was through like these are the various lenses of how people um, view the world, how they make decisions and choices and things like that. Um, how they filter and process, the information presented to them and their interactions with other people and things like that. And that was fascinating to me because, I took it as just that, as like a theory of these various lenses, and the theory, like, with the four-letter dichotomy and these functions. The functions were interesting because there was different types. There wasn't just one that would show us like how a person would engage. Like for example, if someone was like extroverted extroverted intuition user, NE, they would just tangent on like idea off of idea, hopping you know off into something else. Sometimes, at least from what I notice, if I'm you know utilizing the theory or so correctly, is that it looks like they kind of just jump from like one idea to the next, but they don't really connect to each other. They just kind of just like another idea just spawns up. And introverted intuition is more like, it's focused on, a particular idea and seeing how, some things connect to like the greater grand scheme of things. Almost like, I don't know if domino effect would be the word, but that's the way I kind of see it. They look for the meaning through those kind of like connections and how they play a bigger part to everything as a whole. And like, the thing is it's very interesting because, you know, when you notice that kind of thing about, other people, or rather when you learn about like these different ways people process information and view the world and stuff like that, it can kind of give you an insight to what kind of way, how would you approach them. Um, some people who get too caught up in this kind of theory or whatever kind of utilize it in the wrong way. They'll kind of think like, hey, this person could be so and so type. I'm not compatible with them, or um, I gotta, what's the word? They'll try to appeal to their supposed type or whatever through the means of whatever type would be compatible with them. And I think, in my personal opinion, that's when it's kind of like you're not really healthily looking at such a theory, because that's what it is. It's a theory. It's fun to play around with and expand, but um, people are people, and some people don't really focus too much on the functions, and they look at these stereotypes, and because they see these like stereotypes that they try to associate with the set of functions. They call it like a personality type, but it's not really a personality type. Like your actual personality formates, from the environment you're in, and the people around you as you're growing up, and somewhat your genetics too. I'm not like a expertise on that kind of thing, but that's what I observe to be a main factor. Because you could take people. I met people who seem to look at things the same way, similar to me, but their personality, like how they conduct themselves, like with other people, is different from me. But we make like the same decisions and thought choices and patterns. It's just like the way we interact or how people see us, present ourselves is a little different, and it stems from their upbringing, just as how mine's kind of does from my upbringing, you know. And sometimes our upbringings could cause us to go opposite of what those are trying to teach us, and sometimes it can we just adopt, you know, what those try to teach us. Things like that, you got to pay attention to with one's personality, because the thing is with the personality types, you can't really stick people into a box, but it is interesting to see what what do they prefer in their lenses, right? Like what do they lean towards more? To see like what is their dominant function. That's why they call it the dom, the parent, and things like that. Maybe in another video I would go into more detail, but I do wonder, like, a lot of times if this kind of thing was a little more expanded upon, like maybe shown around in some schools and stuff, would people actually be interested and take, like, a little more interest in how to approach people? Because I think my main gripe in my life that I didn't understand that this theory kind of gave me what sold me a little bit on this theory, not like in terms of like it's absolute, but rather what got me interested into it was growing up. I always wondered why some people. I used to wonder why some people thought I was weird, or thought, or why were they so. I think when I was a kid, I used to call them like a hard ass, but why were they concrete? Why was everything to them like what is and what was, but never wanted to think about like some interesting ideas, or like, what could be, what will be, make predictions, and or little patterns and stuff I would notice with people or something, and I would find it interesting. But when I'm a kid, I wasn't well aware that when I start talking about this to another person, they were like, okay, like they would be like, are you all right or something? Until I got older and realized, hey, this person seems to not be so interested in this. This is what they're into, this is what they like, and I would just kind of like, adjust myself for them. And then when I got older and I found this like, theory through that friend, I was kind of like, oh, so they kind of just are more, I guess they're more on the sensor side, whether it be SE or SI that I would find in those individuals, which in my opinion, sensors are. I kind of envy them in some ways, you know, because especially SE users, man. They don't. Most of them, at least, they appear to not really thought sync too much. They just go ahead and do, and you know, they're in like the moment. They're here in the now, and it's just kind of like, man, I wish I could stop. Turn off my thoughts and actually go out and try to do something. Because in a way, like, they're the ones that kind of, you know, I guess mingle more with people or get stuff done. A lot of them have some interesting talents too. But for me, man, I would just sit there and I would just like, you know, feel like I wouldn't get too many stuff done. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the whole type stuff. See ya.